Hey everyone, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of the Lifestyle Lifter Show. I am, as of recording this, it is 5 days post photo shoot. So while it's fresh in my head, I decided it'd be a good idea to actually do an entire podcast on how I ate, trained, and prepared for my recent photo shoot. So diving straight into it, I'm going to start out with my training. So came out to Dubai at the start of the month, the start of April. And I set myself a goal that I would like to do a photo shoot. And a goal is it's something you have in mind, but there has to be a deadline. Whatever you want to achieve, you have to have a deadline there. One little tip for setting goals, because otherwise it'll just go on forever and ever and ever, and you never have an end date that you'd actually like to accomplish it. So I did tell myself that I'd like to do my photo shoot at the end of the month. So I looked at my dates, looked at the schedule, and my initial preference would have been Saturday, the 29th of April. Contacted the gym that I'd initially hoped to do it in, Train Beach Club in Dubai. And unfortunately, they didn't actually allow photo shoots on Saturdays. So then it had to be Friday. So I'd initially planned on doing it on in Train Beach Club, which was a gym kind of by the beach, as the name suggests, and there's like cool scenery there. But I decided then to go to the gym that I train in, Banu's gym, and the gym just right next to it, Train SF. So I did my photo shoot in two gyms, and the date that I had in mind then was the 28th, Friday, the 28th of April. So once I had the end date in mind, I'd four weeks I know where it was more going to be like a hard calorie deficit. As I spoke about in the previous episode, when it comes to losing fat, you can go for a more sustainable, gradual approach, which is typically what I do with my clients. We've 12 weeks, and over the 12 weeks, we start out with the calories a bit higher as they start to lose fat, as they start to get more accustomed to their caloric intake, to the training, to just obviously starting something new, that is when we gradually lower them. Typically after the third week or even fourth week, all depends on the client, of course. For myself, the fact that I know myself, I know my body, that I can push myself that bit harder. I went a bit harder from the start. So I'll start out with my nutrition and then I'll talk about my training. So my maintenance calories coming over, I weighed in at 81.8 kilos. That was my most recent weigh-in. I log my weight I pretty much weigh myself more or less daily, and then I'll just get my weekly average and input that into my fitness pal. And my fitness pal, you have a progress tracker there. So my most recent weigh-in on my fitness pal back in Ireland was 81.8 kilos. Now I didn't have a scale here for the first 3 weeks. Um, and then I found out off the hotel that they actually had one there and that I could use it. So I only had one for peak week. But my maintenance calories are about 3,200. So I went into a deficit straight away of 2,200, which is, it's roughly a 33% deficit, 1,000 less calories. And it was a bit challenging. Obviously at the start, that adjustment, and it's something I say to my clients as well. Whenever we drop the calories initially, and they get a bit lower, they always find, and it's completely normal, the first like even 2 or 3 days, you can feel it's normal to feel a bit hungrier because you're having less food, but then you kind of become more accustomed to, okay, I might just reduce my oats from 50 grams to 40 grams. I might scale back my rice from 75 to 50 grams. So you're eating the same foods essentially, you're just having smaller portions. So I was the exact same, started out at 2,200 for the first 2 weeks. Now I was pretty regimented with my food. I knew I had to be. Um, there's photo shoot lean and there is stage lean. I'm never going to get to a point where I'm stage lean. I mean, I would need probably 16 weeks of prep, but photo shoot lean, I'd like to think I'm only ever 4 to 5 weeks away from prepping for a photo shoot. But with that being said, I had to be stricter on my food. So after the first weekend that I got here, I was a bit all over the place. I arrived on a Friday. So I ate out on the Saturday and I ate out on the Sunday, but I did not eat out then for the rest of the month till after the photo shoot. So that was 28 days there, 4 full weeks of just making my own meals and cooking my own food. So with my food, I prepped my food. What I essentially had the day in the life for me was 2,200 calories. Now, that's not a whole lot of food. Um, so I had to find a way to eat as much food as possible while staying within my calorie deficit. I don't really like going to bed hungry, nor do many people. So my schedule was as follows. I'm a morning bird. I like getting up early in the morning, but I also go to bed quite early at night. So I'm usually up around 5:15-ish, but I'm in bed for like 9:30-ish. So I'll get up at 5:15 in the morning. I will do work like this, like podcasts, like content. I'll usually be in the gym then for 9, training fasted. I'll just have a coffee beforehand, drink lots of water as well. By the time I get home from the gym, because the walk and I'll do like some content on my walk back, it's like 12 o'clock. So it's already 12 o'clock, it's already midday, and I still haven't eaten yet. I'll then typically do a bit of reading for half an hour. So it could actually be half 12 or even 1 o'clock by the time I break my fast. I found that worked well for me, just pushing out that eating window as long as possible. um, Fasting, it's such an underrated yet effective way to save some extra calories if you are in a dieting phase. Just push out that first meal. I'll talk about my aftermath and what I'm doing now that I'm going into like a lean bulking phase. But that was my preference for doing a cut. Now, if you're doing a bulk, which is not the purpose of today's episode, fasting is not a very effective protocol because when you're doing a bulk, you're going to be loading food more, and it's hard to get a lot of food in a congested period of time. But for me, I fasted in the morning, as I said, just drank lots of water, would have had like 3 liters of water drank and coffee before I even would have had my first meal. Now, with my first meal, for the first 2 weeks, so post workout, it would have been so post workout, give the body what it needs when it needs it. Post workout, your body needs carbohydrates to replenish your carb stores that you would have depleted during your workout, and protein for recovery. So I probably have a 2 to 3 to 1 ratio of protein to carb, but it was roughly 75 grams of oats, scoop of whey protein with some strawberries and fruit in there as well, just for something sweet. So that would have been my post-workout meal, my meal one. My meal two, then it would have been meal prep, and meal three was also meal prep. So it was essentially pick your meat. So I had chicken and I had lean steak. They were my two main meats. Pick your veggies. So I get a bit lazy. I just had frozen veg there. There was some green beans, there's some spinach. And then I actually did cook up some broccoli, cauliflower, etc., etc. Fire those in. So meal two and three were meat and veg. And then meal three, which would have been my last meal before bed, I also would have input carbs for the first 2 weeks. So something like 50 to 75 grams of rice there. Why did I have carbs in the evening? Because I trained fasted. So I wanted to have some energy in the morning. I just find if you ever do train fasted, it's probably a good idea to include carbs in your final meal the night before, so those can kind of carry over to the next day and you have a bit more energy in your workouts. So the 2200 was actually fine. And once I got into that routine, my meals were pretty much the same. So the protein oats, meat and veg, and then meat, veg, and rice. Then how did I kind of curb my sugar craving? So every day I would have had a piece of dark chocolate. I would have had some fruit here as well, like apple or a pear, whatever, just in between meals to kind of snack on. And then some big ones that really helped me out. So 7 Up free, absolute game changer. Just 0 calorie 7 Up free. Would have had a can of that a day just to curb its sugar cravings there. And it's nice to have something to look forward to too. I know in the past I would have demonized those 0 calorie drinks, but Lane Norton has done a lot of research in this study. And again, the danger is just in the dose. They are relatively new, but the research does indicate that they can actually be really, really helpful if you are in a calorie deficit, you are in a fat loss journey, that obviously drinking water is important. It's not saying you can just drink calorie-free drinks, but if that's what helps you, give you something to look forward to, as opposed to your default, which previously might have been eating 4 or 5 biscuits, 300 calories there. If that's saving you 300 calories and it's a nice way to curb your sweet tooth, absolutely go for it. Just, I would say, don't become too reliant on the calorie-free drinks, because then it's like everything that you drink, this the danger of it has to be sweet. And if you go back to drinking water, it can just appear bland and you don't really want any of that. You don't want to drink water because you're just used to having something sweet. So I did have one can of 7 Up free a day. If you are in a calorie deficit on a fat loss journey, I would recommend, calorie free, 0 calorie drinks, just the dangers in the dose. The reason I chose 7 Up free also is because it's caffeine free. You can get Coke Zero caffeine free, which would have been my preference, but I couldn't find any caffeine free Coke Zero here. And with those calorie free drinks, again, know yourself. I know that I wouldn't drink it before the gym, anyways. It wouldn't feel good, but I like to save it for the evening time, something to look forward to. Which is why I didn't go with Coke Zero because obviously there's caffeine there, and I don't want to be ingesting caffeine an hour or two before bed. So that really helped me stay on track, as did some other little tips here. Watermelon, 30 calories per 100 grams. So sometimes I would have had some watermelon there as a nice little treat. 150 calories for 500 grams, and you'd feel satiated, you'd feel full, and it's just delicious. And obviously, with the warm weather here, it definitely made the diet inside that bit easier. And then one little thing, one little, would you believe I had cereal most nights as well for the first 2.5 weeks? Now, it wasn't granola, it wasn't Cocoa Pops. This cereal tasted so good, you can't even buy it in supermarkets. My cereal was, so you can get these low calorie rice cakes, and the brand I like to use in Ireland, it is the Jacobs one, the green packet, 18 calories per rice cake. And I got the same over here. What you do is you punch up three little rice cakes, you break it up you just chunk it up into small little pieces, okay? Put that into your bowl. You then get a bit of almond milk, 13-calorie almond milk, so 100 mils of almond milk, and you top it off with a bit of stevia. Okay, 57 calories from the rice cakes plus 13 calories from the milk. That equals 70 calories, and then stevia calorie free. 70 calorie cereal. Name me a place where you will get 70 calorie cereal. You heard it here first. Give that a try. So that was like another little treat that I look forward to. So you know what? I think I could have actually pushed myself harder the first 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, because my calories stayed at 2,200. Then I dropped them to 2,000, probably um just under 2 weeks out. Just under 2 weeks out. And I know I said in the previous podcast I would not go down to 1,500, but from the last, like the final 10 days, my calories were maybe 1,900, 1,700, and then 1,500 for right leading up to peak week. So how I managed that then with the 1,500, that was essentially I had to be stricter on my meal prep. So I cut out the oats completely. I cut out the oats completely in peak week, which I'll go into actually after I talk about my training. And it was literally just 3 meals with meat and veg, and carbohydrates were only coming from veggies itself. There was no oats, there was no rice, so that was how I had to scale it back. But when I scaled initially from 2,200 down to 2,000, I ate the exact same meals, just the portions reduced. So 75 grams of oats might have gone to 50, 75 grams of rice could have gone to 50 again. Eating the exact same foods, just reduce the portion size. A helpful tip for anyone on a fat loss journey. Now, when I weighed myself then, I'm coming into peak week, so I'd lost almost 4 kilos at that stage. I started out at 81.8. I finished the day off the shoot, 71.6. My lowest weigh-in for the week was 71.2. That was the Tuesday, I think, leading up to the photo shoot on the Friday. It did bump up slightly then to 71.8, and then the photo shoot day, 77.6. But that was how I prepped my food there. So look, it was quite disciplined. I was in control of everything. Big game changer, though, I spoke about in the previous episode. Environment. If you look into the press here in the house that I'm staying in and you look for some granola, guess what? You're not going to find it, because I am the most undisciplined person, just like you, if I see a tasty food in the house. So a good way to actually prevent yourself from wanting to binge out or to grab something sweet is not to buy it in the first place. Even with the 7 Up free, I didn't buy multi-packages of it. I just went to the shop every day and I bought one can. I would have saved money if I bought, a pack of six and had one a day. But again, I only said I'll have one a day only. And that's why I just walk to the shop instead of buying them in. Helpful tip. So underrated though. Control your environment. So I had everything here in my control. But that was my food there. I also would have had boiled eggs. Found those really helpful, eggs and egg whites, just to increase my protein and get some healthy fats in there as well. Um, Macro wise, so every day I was hitting 200 grams of protein. And then my carbohydrates and my fats were gradually lowering down. Fats were very, very low, which didn't help with my energy levels for sure. Like they were at 30, 30 to 40 grams of fat there, which, isn't a lot at all. And most of that was just coming from egg yolks and the lean steak mint. Um, Carbohydrate wise, it was probably starting off at just roughly 200 carb, 200 protein. I don't have the exact macros done out when I was at 2200, but leading into peak week, my carbs were as low as 75, and even some days lower than that, like in the 60s. And that was just from veggies. Okay. But that was my nutrition. So I was in control of everything, as I said. Then going on to my training. So with my training, I'm a creature of habit, and I like to do some form of activity every single day. So my training was as follows. Mondays was a leg day. Always do the hardest session first, and the rest of the week becomes easier. I know Monday is over here and worldwide, really in general. It's International Chest Day. Not for me. Chest day is something I look forward to, or push day. Leg day is the hardest, so I'm a big believer doing the hardest thing first, and then the rest of the weeks gets easier. So leg day for me on Monday's leg session, my main compound lift would have been a deadlift variation. So I was doing hex bar, I was doing sumo, alternating between those two. And then I was focusing more so on my posterior chain. So the muscles you can't see in your mirror. So I was doing hip thrust for my glutes. I was doing hamstring leg curls, um some I was doing some squat variations as well, like pendulum squats, uh, just those kind of general exercises. But that was Monday. Monday was leg day. Tuesday then is a pull day. So main lift would have been a wide grip pull up. Again, I still want to hold on to my strength. I didn't build any strength the last 4 weeks, but I didn't really lose any either, which I was really satisfied with. So my pull day would have been wide grip pull ups. I would have done some variation of a seal row, some upper back work there as well with some reverse flies. There'd be some element of a pull down there as well, like a lat pull down, and just some biceps there as well thrown in at the end. Okay. Day three would have been my push day, so upper body push. Main lift on that day would have been an overhead press and also an incline barbell press. So I did a heavier push day, and this would have been my heavier push day. So the reps are a bit lower, and the was a bit higher. So I was doing weighted tricep dips, heavy overhead pressing. I was doing incline bench pressing, and with the barbell, those kind of exercise, more compound lift base in the Wednesday. And that would have been Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So then Thursday back to leg day. And that leg day was more of a squat dominant day. So my main lift would have been a barbell box squat. And then I would have been doing sumo, or dead, or not sumo deadlifts, but Romanian deadlifts with a sumo stance. So it's slightly wider stance. The reason being, I'm currently coming back from an adductor tendinopathy injury, and I'm not able to deadlift straight from the floor or do straight, stiff leg RDLs. So the wider stance just helps kind of ease some of the pain there off my hamstrings and target more of my glutes. So Thursday would have been the leg day and more of a squat dominant day. Friday then, so was my cardio day. I was doing interval training on the treadmill, quite intensive. Something like 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off at 18.5 kilometers an hour. I did like 25, 25 sets of that. Then just some other kind of cardio stuff like 35 on, 25 off, but at 20 kilometers an hour. And then I was also doing 25 seconds on, 35 seconds off at 20 kilometers an hour with a 2 to 3% incline. Just to get more of the hamstrings there involved. One of the best ways to build your hamstring is to actually sprint. So I wanted to keep my athletic base, and as you can might tell from the type of training that I was doing, it's hybrid based. What is hybrid training? So we combine heavy lifting. So there is an element of powerlifting there as well. With the squats, I was keeping the rep ranges roughly in that 5 rep range, 3 to 5 rep range. Same with the deadlift. So you're lifting heavy because I want to maintain my strength. Same with the pull-ups there. I was doing 5 rep pull-ups with maybe a 20 kilo weight belt. Same with the overhead press, etc., etc. Okay, so hybrid training, there's an element of heavy lifting, but then there's also an element of cardio conditioning. So cardio came on the Friday, it also came on the Sunday in the form of a 5K run. And then there's an element of pump work. So I was doing some pump work in the typical bodybuilding 8 to 12 rep range with a 90-second rest in between, focusing on time under tension. The reason I love hybrid training so much is, look, it allows you to lift heavy, and lifting heavy recruits your higher threshold, your type 1 muscle fibers. So you've type 1 and you've type 2 muscle fibers. And type 1 are typically more fast twitch, which athletes tend to have, and you do get those, and you can train those by doing movements which require you to either go heavy or go hard. Go heavy or go fast, I mean, sorry. So heavy would be in the 3 to 5 rep range. You cannot lift a lightweight or a heavyweight slowly. You have to produce a lot of force there. So that's why I like doing heavy lifting, because it recruits those type 2 muscle fibers. Also, that's why I wanted to do some element of sprinting, because again, I want to keep my athletic base. I was doing some box jumps there as well. Anything that requires you to go fast or to go heavy will recruit your type 1. Type 2 then, these are your kind of more endurance-based muscle fibers, or um they don't produce force as quickly, but you can maintain them longer than would say a typical type 1 muscle fiber. So that'll be something like training that 8 to 12 rep range, okay, where you're just training for the pump, you are training for time under tension, you want to absorb and get as much tension on the muscle as possible, and get as much stress and strain on it. So typically, if you were to study athletes, field-based athletes, and if you want to get to the elitist level like the NFL there, the NFL in America, they will typically be more type 2 fast twitch, whereas endurance-based athletes are more type 1 slow twitch, because they run for a longer period of time at a slower, steadier pace. Everyone is genetically different. So some people are born naturally with type 1, slow twitch. Some people are born naturally with type 2, fast twitch. But the good thing is you can train it specifically. You can train yourself to be stronger, to be faster, or to have more endurance, depending on the type of training that you do. With hybrid training, as I said, I'm a big fan of it, because you are training your fast twitch and your slow twitch muscle fibers all in one. Now, hybrid training probably isn't the best approach if you want to step up in stage and be an elite bodybuilder. It's not the best approach if you want to be an elite powerlifter, nor is it the best approach if you want to be an elite endurance runner. But if you were someone like me, who you want to look good, you want to feel good, you want to feel strong in the gym and lift heavy, but you also want the aesthetics to go with it, I think hybrid training really is something that you should look into. So Friday was my cardio. Saturday was an upper session, and then Sunday was cardio. So I was training daily. I do it for my mind as much as at the body. It's 90% mental for me. I'm able to perform better at work. I feel better after it, alleviate stress. So I do some form of activity every day. And for the photo shoot, so it was 5 strength and 2 cardio. I would have also included a small bit of HIIT cardio at some of the end of the workouts, something like 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off in the assault bike for 5 minutes, or a 1 kilometer run for time. But for the most part, that was my training split. Now, leading up to peak week, so I was doing a bit more research, and obviously with peak week there, your calories are a bit lower. So peak week essentially it's a method that bodybuilders lose to try to just look their absolute best and look their to tip top shape coming into their photo or coming into the stepping up in stage. Now the thing with peak week is you have to look good, you have to put the work in beforehand, and 1 week of just doing a peak week protocol, which I'll talk you through, is not going to cut it for you. But with that being said, with peak week, if you take the week as a whole, it goes as follows. So this was my approach. Okay, the first 7 days out from the photo shoot. So photo shoots on Friday, the Friday beforehand, no carbohydrates at all. So I did that last interval-based workout, and as much as I wanted my oats, as much as I wanted my rice, no carbohydrates at all. So I didn't have any carbohydrates on the Friday, on the Saturday, on the Sunday, on the Monday, and up until post my last workout without carbs was that Wednesday morning workout where I trained fasted, and then after that Wednesday I loaded up in carbs. So the idea with not having carbohydrates for the first part of the week and then loading up them is when you train, your body's preferred energy source is carbohydrates. But as you deplete and you use your carbohydrate stores, your body, it's something called super compensation, where when you completely cut out your carbs for the first 5 days, and then you load them up for the final 2 days, your body is actually more receptive. It can hold and store more carbohydrates than normal. Why do we want to store more carbohydrates than normal? Because carbohydrates, where are they stored? They're stored in the muscle as glycogen. And when you think of a photo shooter, you think of bodybuilders stepping up on stage. You want your muscle to look as full and as lean as possible. Now, your muscles aren't going to look as full if your carb stores aren't completely topped up. But the idea of depleting your carbs for the first 5 days is your body is actually able to store more carbohydrates then when you do a loading phase. So for the first 5 days, I was essentially just having meat and veg 3 times a day. Two of the meals were just chicken and veg, and one meal was lean beef and veg. Was getting some healthy fats just from the lean beef and from the egg yolks, maybe a small bit of avocado there too, but that was primarily it. So I didn't push myself as hard where it was kind of recommended that my carbs stayed lower than 50 grams. They were at about 75 grams from the veggies, but I found that was enough for me. It was just really, really challenging for me to get to 50 grams of carbs. It just would have been my meals would have been absolutely tiny. So my only carbs were from veggies, and it came in at roughly 75 grams, but that was just from spinach, from broccoli, from cauliflower, from green beans. Okay. So that is the first 5 days of peak week. You completely cut out carbs, with the exception of veggies. I didn't even have any fruit now, for instance, as well. And then on the flip side, you increase your water intake. Okay. You drink lots and lots of water. One, it'll actually help you keep fuller for longer. But two, you want to fill your muscles with water, okay? Because coming into the end of the week, after the first 5 days where you're depleting your carbs, it's like you reverse them. You load up in carbohydrates to make your muscles look fuller, and then you only drink until thirst, so your muscles do not look fluidy. Because if you just have lots of carb or with no carbs and lots of water, you look so soft. Like I looked really, really soft and just depleted. You could have put me on something like a troker box there. I would say in the Wednesday morning, I could barely talk. Your energy levels are shot. Your muscles, they look small. You feel really weak. And that was just from depleting the carb stores and just having lots of water there in the muscle without getting a proper pump. But the good thing was then the Wednesday after that fasted workout, oh, loading up in carbohydrates never felt so good. I posted on my IG story just having that bowl of oats there. It was unreal. It just tasted so, so good. So I loaded up in carbohydrates then for the final 2 days, and you cut out veggies, you cut out fruit. Why do we cut out fruit, veggies, and even you only drink until thirst? Because you don't want your muscles looking overly fluidy. And veggies, as you know, contain a lot of water, as do fruit. So as do even oats. So I only had oats on the Wednesday. I didn't have it on the Thursday or the day off because oats is high in fiber. Ideally, with peak week, you want to limit your fiber intake because fiber is great for keeping you full for longer, but foods high in fiber like veggies, like oats, and so on, they can actually give you a bloated look. So obviously you don't want to be looking bloated for your photo shoot, or if you're going to a beach, it's probably not the best idea to actually load up and have a lot of, vegetables or oats that day because you can potentially cause a bit of bloating there. So for the final 2 days, I was just having carbohydrates and protein, and I wasn't really having any fats at all. I wasn't having any veggies, and I was only drinking until I was thirsty. But the amazing thing was, after you deplete your carbohydrates, it's my favorite part of the entire week. When you start loading up on your carbs again, you can just see your muscles get a bit firmer. Like you touch your chest without any carbs, and you can just stick your hand right through it. Not firm at all. It's like it's just fluidy, as I said. Okay, you just feel soft. You feel soft, you don't feel strong at all. As you load up in the carbs and you scale back the water, okay, you're peeing out the water. You're only drinking until thirst, but you're loading up your muscle now with glycogen from the carbohydrates. You just touch your muscle. feels a bit fuller, feels a bit firmer. And the ironic thing was my weight started to decrease. I had 800 grams of carbs over between Wednesday and the shoot on Friday morning. Yet my weight actually went from 77.8 to 77.6, despite having, a lot of carbohydrates there. And that was just simply because you flush out the water and you load up the muscle with glycogen. So that was my peak week there, the process. Obviously, the hardest part is the first 5 days where you're reducing carbs, cutting it out completely, you're drinking lots of water. But then when you do that carb load for the last 2 days, oh, it's just such an amazing feeling. Now, the hard part was I didn't drink any 7 Up free or anything for those final 2 days. You only drink until you're thirst. The reason I didn't drink 7 Up free is obviously you want to scale back your fluid, but secondly, um, the thing with the likes of stevia and those sweetened drinks is they can cause bloating and they can kind of cause, I found myself anyways, you feel a bit gassy after it. So I didn't want to have any of that for the photo shoot. Okay. So that brought me up to the photo shoot. The morning off, so my carb stores are relatively full. I actually felt that I could have pushed myself a bit more. So my first meal in the morning at 7 o'clock, how would you be? 100 grams of rice, jasmine rice with 200 grams of chicken. Or 100 grams of chicken. That was my breakfast pre-photo shoot, about 3 hours before the shoot. Okay. I felt that I could have pushed myself a bit more and I could have topped up my carbs a bit more. So that's what I had in the morning off. Then went to the shoot itself. So in Train SF gym, I chose that gym and I chose Banús gym. The reason I chose Train SF is it's actually right next to Banús, which worked out well for my videographer. We could just walk from one to the other. But secondly, I'm a big proponent of hybrid training. And the gym that I'm training in Banús, it is a bodybuilding gym. There's no sled, there's no track, there's no self-sufficient treadmill, which Train SF had. It had a lovely track there, med balls, kettlebells, self-sufficient treadmill, assault bike. What I'm all about. I love that side of training, which you might wonder, why don't you just train there? I didn't realize that freaking gym even existed when I moved to Dubai first. I still would have gone to Banús because you get to, it's a cool gym. You get to see a network with a lot of big names in the industry. But if I had to go back, in terms of my side of training, it's probably better suited for that kind of Train SF, that athletic style gym where you have a track, you have a self-sufficient treadmill, you got a skier, you got an assault bike, but you also have the weights there. But really happy with how my physique was for the photo shoot. So I did Train SF gym, spoke with the videographer, we spoke about what we want to cover. So I shot a few reels, which I'll be posting on my IG at Mac Lifestyle Fitness. If you're not following me there, I'll be posting some of those. I've got like 256 photos and 64 videos as well. So looking forward to being able to use those for content. But essentially what we did was we just spoke about what we want to do first of all. We did the recorded the reels. So I recorded maybe 4 reels while your mind is fresh. When you are recording videos, you got to be on the ball with your being concise in your language, getting to the point straight away. And that can actually, obviously, it requires you to think a lot. So I did that harder work first. And then we went on to the photo shoot. So I did my pump up sets beforehand, and it's just unreal. I brought some rice cakes, I bought some peanut butter, and I bought some honey there. Rice cakes for carbs, honey for a faster digestion form of sugar, and then the fats from the peanut butter. So I didn't really have any fats for the last 2 days. But then when you add fat into your diet, oh, just the vascularity there that it really brings to your muscle. Unbelievable. The salt, the sodium. You're getting that proper sodium potassium pump there, which if you look it up, is what the bodybuilders often refer to. That's where the pump comes from. It comes from the carbs, the sodium, the salt there as well. So the peanut butter that gave me that sodium potassium pump, and it's just unreal seeing yourself get that pump when you just do your pump up sets, your warm up sets, you're having the food 10, 15 minutes beforehand. Just the vascularity and the level of definition you see, it really is so rewarding. It makes it all worthwhile. So the takeaway being with this, look, doing something like this, you don't have to train for a photo shoot, but there's so much value and so much benefit, and occasion just pushing yourself that bit more, setting yourself a goal that, I'm not sure can I achieve this. and you push yourself to the depths of despair. But on the other end of that, it's absolute greatness. And that's just how I felt in the day of the photo shoot. I was just trying to be really, really present and be there in the moment. So we got a lot of shots, everything from deadlifts to squats to running on the treadmill to med ball slams. We did all of the athletic base work in the Train SF. And then I went to Benoose. Oh my God, I was starving by the time I got to Benoose. So 2.5 hours of recording, just exercise after exercise. Felt very, very tired. So I topped up and more rice cakes, peanut butter, and honey. And then we did more of the upper body ones at Benu. So that was like cable crossover pictures, overhead press pictures, bicep curls, all the good stuff, ladder raises. And that was kind of pretty much how I structured it. So primarily lower body in the Train SF athletic gym, and then upper body pictures in the Benoose gym. Okay. And then after that, no binge eating. If you need to binge on your diet and cheating it, you're not following a good diet. And honestly, I didn't really feel like I was dieting in terms of the food that I was eating. Just I obviously would have liked to have more food, but I love savory food. Okay. I love chicken, I love rice, I love having veggies. So what I went for after the photo shoot, I was craving an Oreo protein bar and the Quest brand. Oh my God, they are absolutely delicious. So I just had a protein bar. I got food for the first time out in 4 weeks. And again, I could have got pizza and I wouldn't have deprived myself if I wanted it. I could have got, a takeaway, could have got a burger, but I didn't want it. So I just got barbecue chicken, some lovely rice, and some veggies there. Then I got some sushi as well because I freaking love sushi. But that was it. Like, I just had some fruit, had some 7 Up free again, and just eating more of the foods because this is what I like. These are the foods that I enjoy. And if you can find a diet where you never feel the need or urge to cheat in it, that's something you'll be able to sustain long term. Okay. So 5 days out, 5 days post shoot. What is the goal for me now? I know my hunger is through the roof at the moment, and that is normal after a dieting phase. So I'm reverse dieting out. My calories at the moment are probably at 25 odd hundred. So I'm still technically in a deficit, but my maintenance calories would have started out at 3,200. I would estimate them to be at about 2,900 now. They'll probably have dropped by about 300 because my weight has gone from 81.8 to 77.6. Now, weighed in this morning, I'm up, what did I weigh in at this morning? 78.2. So I'm up 0.6 kilos so I'm up about a pound, just over a pound from my photo shoot weigh-in. I'm absolutely okay with that. I don't want to just gain all the weight back quickly. I want to build a bit of muscle now, but I want to do it slowly. Okay, so I'm going to gradually reverse diet out of my cut at the moment and start out at 2,500. I'll look at my weight. I'll see how things are progressing. If I'm happy enough with my weight, my physique, I might go 2,600 the next week, then 27, then 28, with the goal being to get back to maintenance as quick as possible while minimizing the amount of fat that I'm going to gain. Inevitably, I am going to gain some fat, and that's something I'm going to accept. You have to accept it too, that when you increase your calories, your body doesn't want to stay, photo shoot lean and especially bodybuilding lean year round. Like that is just not sustainable. Now, for me, photo shoot lean, it's probably 10%. My sweet spot is probably 12%. But if I can stay in and around the 10 to 12% body fat, I will be happy. And that is my goal post photo shoot. I'm not going to regain the weight. I'm going to slowly bump up my calories and do a good lean bulk. All right. I'm looking forward to pushing a bit food that bit more. And how I'm going to structure this is I used to always train fast, but now I'm going to eat a bit of food before my workout just so I can push myself that bit harder with my workout. I'm going to give myself still an eating window of roughly 12 hours. And the majority of my increase in calories are coming from carbohydrates and some from fats as well. My protein is still around 200 grams, but I'm bumping up my carbs now so I have more energy for my workouts and just that I can really push my performance and focus on building muscle now. I really want to just push building muscle because the more muscle mass you have, the more calories you have, the more calories you burn while resting. And building muscle is one of the best ways you can build your metabolism. Okay. So I really want to build up my metabolism again. get my maintenance calories back up to 32, 33, or even 3,400, so that when I do a cut again, whenever that will be, I can cut at 2,500 maybe instead of 2,200 and still lose weight. So that is my goal for a post show. And that is how I ate, how I trained, and how I prepared for my photo shoot. Everything from leading up to it, hybrid training, and peak week. Okay. And that is it for this week's episode. So if you did get value from the show, follow me on IG for more if you want to check out some of the reels there, some of the content I'll be posting from the photo shoot. I'm at Mac Lifestyle Fitness, MC Lifestyle Fitness. So drop me a follow there if you're not already doing so. And if you got value from the show, the only thing I will ask is I do not run ads towards it. Um, the only thing I do ask is you please share the show. Share with a friend, share with a colleague. However you came across this show, it was either through knowing me personally or hearing about it from somebody else. And just please, 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 I would appreciate if you pay it forward. That is the only thing that I ask. Okay. And that is all for this week's episode. So I will post, I'll be posting some of those pictures on my IG. So I'll link my IG in the show notes. If you are not already following me on IG, feel free to do so. And then I also have some free giveaways there as well. Free 3-day total body training program where I teach you my hybrid training approach. I'll post the links to that in the show notes. And I also have a free 7-day fat loss accelerator, which if you have a holiday or something coming up, this using that 7-day fat loss accelerator will just help you get and look your absolute best in a shorter period of time. I also have a free recipe cookbook, and some of those recipes I will use myself for my peak week. So I'll post that in the show notes as well. And obviously, if you want one-to-one elite online coaching, my application form, I'll leave that there for you to fill it out. I only work with clients by application only. So if you are a good fit, fill it out. We can schedule a consult call to see if and how I might be able to help you. But that is all for this week's podcast. I hope you got value from the show. Peace out, lifestyle lifters. Until next week's episode.